Hello friends, this is Karthikeya Singh working as an assistant professor in School of Manual Sciences, Varanasi. We have already started the research process and we are going to cover the first step of it, that is formulation of research problem. So let's begin with the lecture. I have already briefed you about the research problem, research process, and 11 steps are there. So today we are going to start with the first step, that is research problem identification. So let's begin with, we start identifying our problem. We follow two steps. We take care of two basic steps. That is, we try to identify the nature of the state, the nature of the problem, and second one, relationship between variables. So if we wish to understand these two lines, first we have to take one particular example. So for your sake of understanding, I am going to consider one particular problem. Like I want to study the customer, and this can be your summer internship project. Means if you are going to do your summer internship project or any kind of project, this particular research problem can be of help, can be of some help to you. So study the customer perception and attitude towards brand XYZ. So this can be my research problem, and this is just a tentative research problem. So but if I want to understand the nature of the problem, we have to understand perception first, then attitude first, and how this is going to impact this brand awareness or brand image. Means we have to establish a relationship between perception, attitude, and brand image. So these three variables should be there, and if we want to understand the nature of the problem, we have to understand all the variables which are involved and how they are interrelated to each other. So before defining our problem, first thing we have to understand the problem well. Then the first thing which we are going to take care of is we have to understand the nature of the problem, and then we are going to try to establish certain relationship between variables involved. So these are the two very basic steps which we usually take care while devising our research problem. Next would be, initially problem may be stated in a broader or general way, and then ambiguities, if any, relating to the problem be resolved. Now we have to take one particular example to understand this thing. For example, wheat production of China is more than India. This is a generic problem. Here, no specific season is being mentioned. In which season this wheat production is more, no year is mentioned, and on what parameter this measurement is being done. Like wheat production in terms of labor output, in terms of land output, in terms of variable which is involved, or which input cost which is involved in producing wheat. So this is just a generic problem. If we want to convert this into a specific problem, we have to rephrase it. This is the point which, if you look at this point, it says initially the problem may be stated in a broader and general way, and this particular problem is being stated in a broad and general way, that wheat production of China is more than India, and then we try to remove all the ambiguities in this, and then we try to relate with the problem and try to resolve it. So first we have to write a generic statement related to the problem, and then we are expected to convert into the specific problem. So if we wish to make this particular generic problem into a specific problem, we have to study the region due to which wheat production of China is more than India in the financial year 2019-20 with special reference to labor output. This was the generic problem. Wheat production is more in China, and this is the specific problem. A study of the region due to which wheat production of China is more than India in the year. We have already specified the year, and with respect to labor output, means 1 unit of labor produces how much. So we are going to compare on the basis of labor output. So we have made the generic research problem into the specific research problem. So we are going to justify this statement. We usually have written the problem in a broader and general way, and then we have converted into a specific problem. So I think this statement must be clear to you. Now, moving ahead, first, then the feasibility of a particular solution has to be considered before working on the formulation of the research problem. We have already identified that what are the region due to which China wheat production is more. So we have to understand that what are the feasible solution will be able to complete that research. Are the resources in hand is sufficient, or means available resources with us is sufficient to do that research? Fund is available or not? Human resource which is going to carry out this research are capable enough to complete that research or not? So all these questions we are going to cover in this. Then comes the formulation of general topic into a specific research problem. We have already discussed. We try to the formulation of generic topic into the specific problem, thus the constitutes the first step of research inquiry. So in problem identification, the most important thing, we try to first define the nature of the problem, and then we try to establish a relationship between them, which we have already defined it here. And after understanding the nature of the problem and relationship between variables, we usually try to write a generic problem or convert a generic problem into specific research problem. So this is the basic thing which we usually take care while devising our research problem. So let's move ahead. Researcher must at the same time examine all available literature given. The most important thing is the researcher must at the same time examine all the available literature to get himself acquainted with the selected problem. Whatever available literatures are there, the researcher is expected to follow that, and he may be review two types of literature. The first one is conceptual literature, means textbooks and theories which are already there, and second one empirical literature, which is data based, means some research has already been done on the basis of primary data, and on the basis of that we are going to define our research problem. So in this particular slide we have learned that researcher is expected to learn all the available literature related to our problem, or he may have to take help from two types of literature. First, conceptual literature, which is conceptual nature and theory based literature, and the second one is empirical literature, which is data based literature. That means whatever primary data or primary database research is being done, so he also has to study that. So we have already covered the problem identification in 2 slides. Let's move to the next slide. And this is the process which everybody or any researcher is expected to follow. First, he has to do literature survey, and through that literature survey he has to find the gap. Then he has to identify the problem, and on the basis of that he is going to define his objective of the research, and on the basis of that objective he is going to do the research. I'll show you I will show you how it actually happens. I'm going to show you on the Google Sheet, and on the Google Sheet how we usually do this extensive literature survey, then how we are going to find the gap, and on the basis of those gaps we are going to identify a research problem or problem area on which we are expected to work, and on the basis of problem area we are going to find the objective of the research, and on the basis of that objective we are going to carry out that research. So let me show you on Google Sheet, and it will give you some clarity on that. People have already covered that researcher is expected to do extensive literature survey. So doing that extensive literature survey, the basic procedure is this, that we have to mention the researcher name, then title or research paper, then findings, and then gap. Every research paper is expected to write their gap. So if I have identified a researcher's name, the title of the project or title of the research paper, then its finding, and then gap. Likewise, I'm going to do the entire process for different papers, and for every paper I'm going to write the basic gap, and every research paper usually give gap that on this particular area we are not able to work, and if further researches are going to be done, they should take care of this particular gap area. So we have already known the gap area, then we, on the basis of that gap area, we have identified our gap. On the basis of gap, we have identified our problem, and on the basis of that problem, we have identified our objective. So this is the usual process which anybody is expected to follow while identifying a problem. It is again going to solve your further problem of building your hypothesis or building your extensive literature survey on the basis of this. So this is the basic step we usually follow while devising a research problem. So you must have a clear idea, like what step people have already followed. We are going to do extensive literature survey. Out of that extensive literature survey, we are going to find the gap. We have already found the gap. We have improvised that gap. And on the basis of that gap, we have identified our problem. And on the basis of problem, we have identified our objective of the research. So this is the basic problem which any particular researcher or any particular educator is expected to follow. So up to this, I think you have already studied the steps which are involved in identifying a problem. So just for a clarity of it, I'm going to mention 2 steps were there. Like we have to identify the nature of the problem, and then we have to establish a relationship between variables. After that, we usually write a generic problem, and then we try to convert into a specific problem. Once we have written the specific problem, then we move into the next part, that is literature survey. In literature survey, we usually follow 2 types of literature. One is conceptual and second one is empirical. Conceptual means research based or theory based textbooks, and empirical means data driven material or journal outputs. So we have already studied the steps which are involved in identifying a problem. In next lecture video, we are going to study extensive literature survey and how we are going to carry out that extensive literature survey. Thank you so much for watching.